Okay, so are you ready to like shrink down to doll size? Because today we're doing a deep dive into a world you might not expect, miniature footwear.
Miniature footwear?
Yes, specifically doll shoes. And these surprisingly complex systems that collectors use to keep them all straight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And our source material is this really fascinating YouTube video.
Okay.
It's from Dollbase. And a collector walks us through their passion for doll shoes. And believe me, it's a lot.
A lot.
It's a lot more intricate than just like tossing tiny shoes in a box.
Okay, so what is it about this collection that makes it so special?
Well, I think what's immediately captivating is how this hobby, which, seems very, very niche, actually reflects broader trends in collecting.
Oh, interesting.
Like that human need for order.
Yeah, I can see that.
The way we attach value to objects.
Right.
It's all there, just miniaturized. So it is fascinating.
Yeah.
And the sheer variety of these shoes is mind-boggling. And the detail in them, you wouldn't believe it. This collector, they categorize by type. So like pumps, flats, ankle straps.
Wow, that's pretty specific.
Slingbacks, you name it. Like they've got it all. And then they go even deeper.
Deeper.
Looking for like telltale markings, holes from old packaging, even where the shoe is made. It's like detective work.
It's like shoe CSI. I love it.
It is. And that's actually what makes this so intriguing.
Yeah.
It's not just about amassing a collection. It's about the knowledge and expertise that go along with it. This collector can spot a tiny B mark.
A B mark.
And tell you that signifies official Barbie footwear.
No way.
Yes. They can even differentiate between Ken Kobo boots and B Kobo boots, which I have to admit has me totally curious.
Okay, wait. What is the difference? And also, what even eyes a Kobo boot in the doll world?
I don't know, but we need to find out.
We do.
But it speaks to how much history is embedded in these little tiny objects.
Right, right.
They mention the evolution of Barbie shoes, from wooden soles to plastic.
Oh.
And you can't help but think about how that, mirrors changes in manufacturing and materials in the wider world,
Right. It's like each shoe is a miniature time capsule.
Totally.
And then there's the value aspect. Just like with sneakers, certain doll shoes become, highly sought after.
Yeah.
Like the collector mentioned shoes with Jan printed on the sole being particularly valuable.
Yeah.
Jan makes you wonder, who was Jan? And what made their shoes stand out?
Right. It's like this whole secret language.
Yeah, it is. And speaking of details,
Yeah.
they mentioned that Cindy dolls have slightly wider feet than Barbie.
Really?
Who knew? But that level of specificity is what makes this hobby so engaging.
Totally.
You're not just collecting shoes, you're collecting knowledge.
And it connects to the psychology of collecting in such a fascinating way. Like the
Yeah.
desire to categorize, to create order, to possess these tiny pieces of history. It's a world unto itself.
A miniature world. I like it.
It really is. And it's not just Barbie,
No.
They also collect footwear for action figures.
Oh.
Like what?
Like Action Man, Big Jim, G.I. Joe,
Uh-huh.
each with his own distinct styles and materials. I'm picturing those rugged little boots
Yeah.
next to a delicate pair of Barbie stilettos. What a contrast.
I'm picturing it too. That's a great visual.
Isn't it? And that variety just showcases the breadth of this hobby.
Yeah.
It's not just about one type of doll or shoe. It's about the entire universe of miniature footwear.
Right.
It's mind-blowing when you think about it that way.
Yeah.
And the way they approach it is so methodical.
Oh, yeah.
They actually measure the doll's feet
What?
to ensure a perfect fit.
Are you serious?
Yes. The foot blade, the widest part, the length, the width.
No way.
It's like tailoring for tiny people.
I love that. That is dedication.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it reminds us that collecting isn't just about acquiring objects. It's about representing them accurately.
Right.
It's almost like curating a museum exhibit,
I was going to say.
but on a miniature scale.
Right. I love that comparison.
And it's not just shoes.
They're into clothes and purses too. Even buying vintage doll pants on AliExpress.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That highlights the global nature of this hobby.
Totally.
These days, collectors aren't limited by geography.
Right.
They can source pieces from all over the world, connecting with other enthusiasts, expanding their collections in ways that wouldn't have been possible, even a few decades ago.
Yeah. It's like this miniature world has its own global marketplace, its own trends, its own values, and it's all happening right under our noses.
Wow. It really makes you think, what other seemingly mundane things in our lives might hold these hidden depths?
That's such a great question.
Right.
and it's one we'll keep exploring as we delve deeper into this world of miniature footwear. But before we go too far,
Yeah.
now, we know this collector is meticulous about fit, but there's another detail that really caught my eye in the video. They talked about preferring artificial leather over real leather when making clothes for their dolls.
Really?
What do you make
Excellent.
of that?
Oh, I find that choice particularly interesting
Yeah.
because it suggests that even within a hobby like this,
Uh-huh.
there are ethical considerations.
Right.
It's not just about collecting. It's about making conscious choices about like the materials
Yes,
and methods used.
absolutely. And that speaks to like the level of thoughtfulness and awareness that many collectors bring to their passions. They're not just, passively acquiring things. They're actively engaging with the ethical and environmental implications of their choices.
I like that. It's a reminder that collecting can be about more than just the objects themselves.
Right.
It can be about expressing our values and making a positive impact, even in like a small way.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes those small choices can have a surprisingly big impact, especially when you consider the global scale of collecting
Yeah.
and the influence these communities can have. Now, you mentioned earlier that this collector uses a specific system for organizing their shoes.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through that a bit more? I'm dying to know how they manage to keep track of all those tiny pumps and boots.
Well, as we discussed, it starts with categorization by type,
Okay.
but then it gets really fascinating.
How so?
They actually group shoes by color within each category,
What?
which I imagine makes it much easier to spot a matching pair amidst a jumble of tiny footwear.
That's so smart.
Isn't it?
It's like a rainbow of tiny shoes. And I bet it's a lot easier on the eyes than trying to sift through like hundreds of mismatched styles.
I bet.
But what about the shoes that they haven't been able to match?
Oh, good question.
Do those just like languish in a lonely shoe purgatory?
Not at all. The collector has a dedicated box for those solo shoes.
Ah,
I'm sure is a common problem for anyone dealing with such a large quantity of miniature items.
Mhm.
It's like a mini lost and found for footwear.
Oh, I love that. And it makes me wonder about the stories behind those unmatched shoes.
Yeah.
Are they remnants of like incomplete sets, casualties of like childhood play, or maybe even one-of-a-kind custom creations?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right.
It's those little mysteries that keep us coming back for more, isn't it?
Totally.
The thought that each tiny shoe might hold a hidden story, a connection to the past, or a glimpse into the world of the collector.
It's true. It's like each shoe is a tiny puzzle piece, and the more we learn about them, the clearer the bigger picture becomes.
Right.
Now, we've talked a lot about the like technical aspects of collecting,
Right.
the categorization, the identification, the meticulous attention to detail.
Sure.
But I'm curious about the emotional side of it. What is it about this hobby that like speaks to people on a deeper level?
Yeah.
Why are people so drawn to these tiny, seemingly insignificant objects?
That's a great question. And I think it gets to the heart of what makes collecting so fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about the objects themselves.
Right.
It's about the feelings they evoke, the memories they trigger,
Yeah.
the connections they foster.
Totally. And in the case of doll shoes, those connections often run deep, right? They tie into childhood memories, pop culture nostalgia, and even like the evolution of fashion and style over time.
Right.
So it's like holding a tiny piece of your own past in your hand.
Yeah. Or a tangible reminder of a beloved character or time period.
Totally. And for many collectors, that emotional connection is just as valuable
For sure.
as the monetary value of the objects themselves.
Absolutely.
So it's like a miniature window into our own personal histories and the things that shaped us. But it's not just about the past, is it?
No, it's not.
This hobby also connects collectors to like a vibrant present day community.
Right.
Yeah. And that community aspect is a huge part of what makes collecting so rewarding.
Absolutely.
It's about sharing your knowledge, connecting with like-minded people, and even engaging in like friendly debates.
Yes, those debates can get heated.
I bet. Discussions.
Yeah.
It's like a secret society.
It is.
United by a love for these tiny objects.
I love that visual.
Right.
It is. It is.
I can just imagine those conversations, the excitement of like sharing a rare find, the thrill of the hunt for a missing piece, the camaraderie of a community that truly understands your passion.
It's a beautiful thing.
It really is. And speaking of passion, we haven't even scratched the surface of this collector's knowledge.
I know.
They mentioned something called Fashion Serious 3.
Yeah.
which apparently includes several shoes in each set or package. What's the story there?
Ah, yes. Fashion Series 3 sounds like a specific line of, like, Barbie fashion sets.
Oh.
It's a great example of how these shoes weren't just, sold individually.
Mm-hmm.
They were often part of, like, larger ensembles that reflected contemporary fashion trends.
So it's like a mini time capsule
Oh, correct.
by fashion history,
Yes.
captured in these tiny plastic shoes.
Right.
And it adds another layer of complexity to the collecting process, doesn't it?
Definitely.
Now you have to consider not just the individual shoes,
Right.
but how they fit into like the overall aesthetic of the set and then the era it represents.
And the era it represents, yeah.
It's like piecing together a miniature fashion puzzle.
It is.
And I can imagine it's incredibly satisfying for collectors to like find a complete set with all its original accessories.
Absolutely.
It's a true testament to their dedication and attention to detail.
It is. It is.
And it speaks to the way collectors often become experts in their chosen fields.
Right.
They develop this like deep knowledge base that
Yeah.
most people wouldn't even know exists. It's like they're uncovering a hidden world
Yeah,
that's right there in plain sight.
it's true.
And that's one of the things I love most about these deep dives.
Wow.
We get to explore those hidden worlds and uncover the fascinating stories they hold.
Right. And speaking of stories,
Yes.
this collector mentioned a particularly intriguing detail. Their quest to find a specific pair of shoes, the elusive Ken Kobo boots,
Mm-hmm.
or perhaps the B Kobo boots. It's like a miniature treasure hunt.
It is. It really is.
And it's those little details that keep us hooked, aren't they? The mystery of those boots, the subtle variations in branding,
Yeah,
the thrill of the hunt, it all adds to the allure of collecting.
totally. But I'm curious,
Yeah.
you mentioned earlier that the collector can actually tell where a shoe was manufactured
Yes.
based on tiny markings.
Uh-huh.
Can you tell us more about that?
Of course.
Yeah.
It turns out these markings are like little fingerprints,
Oh, wow.
revealing not only the country of origin, but sometimes even the specific factory where the shoe was made.
Really?
And it's not just for, like, trivia's sake.
Uh-huh.
These details can actually impact a shoe's value among collectors.
I bet. It's amazing how something so seemingly insignificant can make such a difference.
Isn't it?
It speaks to the passion and knowledge that drives this hobby.
Absolutely.
Collectors aren't just accumulating objects.
Right.
They're immersed in a world of history, craftsmanship, and even like manufacturing variations. It's like a whole secret code embedded in these tiny shoes.
It is.
And the collector's ability to decipher that code is a testament to their like deep understanding of this niche world. But, as much as we're enjoying unraveling the mysteries of Barbie shoes,
Yeah.
there's another area of this collection I'm itching to explore.
Mm.
Those action figure boots, they seem so different from the delicate world of like Barbie footwear.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm curious about the materials, the styles, the whole vibe.
Right, let's dive into that. Action figure footwear is a world unto itself,
Yeah.
often reflecting the more rugged, adventurous nature of these characters. From combat boots to riding boots, each style tells a story about the world these figures inhabit.
I love that. And it makes me wonder about the communities that spring up around these different types of miniature footwear.
Yeah.
Are there like separate groups dedicated to Barbie shoes versus, say, G.I. Joe boots?
Yeah.
Or do these passions often overlap?
That's a fascinating question. And it speaks to the broader world of collecting, where there's this constant interplay between specialization and crossover.
Right.
Some collectors might focus exclusively on one type of doll or figure,
Mm-hmm.
while others embrace the diversity and seek out unique pieces from across different genres and time periods.
I can see the appeal of both approaches.
Right.
There's something to be said for like the deep dive into a specific area of expertise.
Right.
But there's also something incredibly exciting about like the cross-pollination of ideas
Yes.
and the unexpected discoveries that can happen when you venture outside your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
But before we get too far ahead of ourselves,
Okay.
I want to circle back to a detail we touched on earlier.
Yeah.
The debate within the collecting community about bee shoes.
Bee shoes.
Can you elaborate on that a bit more? What's the controversy all about?
Well, as we mentioned, the bee marking signifies official Barbie footwear.
Right.
But it turns out not all bee shoes are created equal.
Yeah.
Some were made in Hong Kong or Taiwan,
Uh-huh.
while others were made in France or even Italy.
Oh, wow.
And those made in Italy are supposedly more valuable due to their harder plastic composition.
Really?
Yeah.
It's amazing how these tiny details can impact a shoe's value
It
and desirability among collectors. And it highlights the depth of knowledge that exists within this community. It's like they've developed their own like intricate system of classification and valuation based on factors that most people would never even consider.
Right.
It's a testament to the passion and dedication of these collectors.
Yeah.
And it reminds us that even the most seemingly mundane objects can hold hidden depths
Uh-huh.
and stories waiting to be uncovered.
Right. But, for all the intricacies and nuances of like identifying and categorizing these shoes,
Yeah.
there's also a very practical aspect to this hobby.
Huh.
Actually getting the shoes onto the doll's feet.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And from what we've seen, this collector is incredibly meticulous about ensuring a perfect fit.
Oh, absolutely. They're not just throwing any old shoe on a doll. They're taking like precise measurements,
Yeah.
considering the shape and size of the foot and even factoring in the circumference of the ankle to ensure the doll's pants will fit over the shoes.
Oh, wow.
It's almost scientific in its approach.
It is.
Right.
And it speaks to the level of care and precision that many collectors bring to their hobby.
Totally.
They're not just amassing objects.
Yeah.
They're curating displays, creating narratives, and ensuring that every detail is just right.
It's like dressing a tiny person, isn't it?
It is.
Each element of the outfit has to be like carefully considered to create a cohesive and stylish look. And I bet it's incredibly satisfying to see a doll perfectly outfitted with shoes that not only fit well, but also complement the overall aesthetic.
I can imagine it is. It's like solving a miniature fashion puzzle. And the end result is a testament to the collector's keen eye for detail and their deep understanding of both, like fashion and doll history.
Yeah.
But, as we delve deeper into this world, I can't help but think about, like, the larger implications of this hobby.
Yeah.
What does it tell us about human nature, our desire for order, our fascination with the miniature?
That's a great question, and it's one that we'll continue to explore as we delve deeper into this fascinating world.
Yeah.
But before we move on, there's one more detail about the collector's organization system that I find particularly intriguing.
Okay.
They actually have a separate category dedicated specifically to ankle boots.
Ankle boots, really?
Why do you think they chose to single out that particular style?
That's a great observation.
Yeah.
And it suggests that even within like a niche hobby like this,
Yeah.
there are subcategories and further levels of specialization.
Right.
I imagine collectors could spend hours debating the finer points of like ankle boot design and history,
Yeah.
tracing their evolution from early fashion dolls to modern action figures.
It's like a whole mini universe within the already tiny world of doll shoes.
It really is.
Right. And it makes me wonder about the criteria collectors use to like distinguish between different types of boots.
Yeah, good question.
Is it the height of the shaft, the shape of the toe, the presence or absence of a heel? I bet there are entire treatises written on the subject.
There probably are.
Right.
And it's a reminder that the world of collecting is full of these like hidden depths,
Right.
these intricate systems of knowledge and classification that most people are completely unaware of.
It really is. But, for all the complexities of categorization and identification,
Yeah.
there's also a very tactile, hands-on aspect to this hobby.
Oh, absolutely.
These collectors aren't just looking at pictures, they're handling these tiny shoes, feeling the materials,
Yes.
noticing the subtle variations in craftsmanship.
It's a very sensory experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And that tactile experience is a huge part of the appeal, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's about, like, connecting with these objects on a physical level, appreciating the artistry and skill that went into their creation. And it's not just about, like, looking.
Right.
It's about feeling, manipulating, even problem solving.
Yeah.
Remember how the collector talked about using a thread to measure the circumference of a doll's foot and ankle?
Yes.
It's like they're constantly coming up with creative solutions
Right. Yeah.
to the unique challenges of working with these miniature objects.
It's like a combination of artistry and engineering, all happening on a tiny scale.
Yeah.
And it's that ingenuity, that willingness to experiment and problem solve that makes this hobby so engaging.
It's like a miniature world of possibilities, isn't it?
It is.
And it reminds us that even in the smallest of things, there's always more to discover, more to learn, and more to appreciate.
Absolutely.
But, as much as we're enjoying this deep dive into the technical aspects of doll shoe collecting,
I can't help but think about the bigger picture.
Yeah.
What does this hobby tell us about human nature?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Our desire to collect, to categorize, to create order out of chaos?
Right.
Hmm.
That's a great question, and it's one that we'll continue to explore as we delve deeper into this fascinating world.
Absolutely.
But for now, let's take a step back and consider the broader landscape of, like, doll collecting.
Okay.
We focused a lot on Barbie, but this collector also has a passion for other types of dolls and action figures.
Right.
What are some of the key differences and similarities we might see as we expand our scope?
That's a great point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a perfect segue into the next part of our deep dive.
Oh,
We've explored the meticulous world of Barbie footwear, but now it's time to venture into the rugged realm of action figure boots.
ooh, I like it.
Get ready for a whole new set of challenges, discoveries, and maybe even a few surprises along the way.
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right, let's swap those stilettos for some sturdy boots. What's interesting about action figure footwear is that it often reflects the character's purpose. Think combat boots for soldiers, riding boots for cowboys,
Yeah.
each detail adding to the story.
It's like each boot is a mini biography.
Right.
And I bet the materials are totally different too.
Oh, yeah,
Right. No delicate plastic here.
exactly. You'll see more durable materials, maybe rubber or even simulated leather,
Oh.
echoing the ruggedness of these action heroes.
Oh, right.
And the styles can be surprisingly diverse, too. You've got everything from lace-up combat boots
Okay.
to slip-on Chelsea boots, even the occasional sandal for those beach-bound missions.
Sandal-wearing action figures. Now that's an image.
I know, right?
But it just goes to show that even within, like, this specific category,
Yeah.
there's a whole spectrum of style. And I bet, just like with the Barbie shoes, there are rare finds and coveted pieces in the world of action figure footwear.
Oh, absolutely. Just think about vintage G.I. Joe boots.
Yeah.
Or those hard-to-find accessories for Action Man.
Oh,
Collectors are constantly on the hunt for those, missing pieces.
yeah,
Those rare variations that complete a set or represent a specific era.
totally.
And just like with the Barbie shoes, condition is everything.
Oh, of course.
A pristine pair of boots, with all of its original buckles and straps intact, can be worth a small fortune.
It's like a miniature antique market. Speaking of value,
Yeah.
I'm curious about the overlap between doll shoe collectors
Yeah.
and action figure collectors.
Yeah.
Do those passions often converge,
Oh,
or
no.
are they separate worlds?
There's definitely overlap, but also dedicated enthusiasts for each.
Okay.
Some collectors might focus solely on Barbie,
Yeah.
meticulously curating a wardrobe of tiny pumps and sandals,
Right.
while others are all about, the gritty realism of G.I. Joe
Mm-hmm.
or the futuristic stylings of, Star Wars figures.
Yeah.
But then there are those who embrace the diversity,
Yeah.
seeking out, unique and interesting pieces from across different genres and time periods.
That's fascinating. It's like there's a whole spectrum of collecting styles, from like the hyper-focused to the eclectic.
Right.
And I bet those collections tell a story about the collector themselves,
Yeah.
their interests, their passions, maybe even their childhood memories.
Absolutely. A collection is a reflection of the collector's personality and journey.
Yeah.
It's a curated narrative, a tangible expression of their passions and fascinations.
That makes me wonder,
Yeah.
do collectors ever create their own custom footwear for these figures?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Customizing and creating miniature footwear is a whole subculture within this world.
Oh, wow.
Some collectors, they modify existing pieces, adding details or changing colors,
Mm-hmm.
while others craft entirely new designs from scratch, using tiny pieces of leather, fabric, and even 3D printing technology.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a way for them to express their own creativity,
Yeah.
to personalize their collections, and even to fill in gaps where mass-produced options fall short.
Wow, that's incredible. It's like this miniature world has its own artisans and designers,
Yes.
creating unique pieces that push the boundaries of what's possible.
Right.
And it speaks to the level of dedication and passion that drives this hobby.
Yeah.
It's not just about collecting, it's about creating, innovating, and pushing the limits of what's possible in miniature form.
And it highlights the community aspect of collecting.
Totally.
These collectors aren't just hoarding objects.
Right.
They're sharing their creations, learning from each other, and pushing the boundaries of their craft together.
That's amazing.
It's like a miniature renaissance
I love that analogy.
with artists and artisans collaborating and inspiring each other.
I love that. And speaking of inspiring, this This deep dive has me thinking about my own collecting impulses.
Oh, yeah.
I've never been like a serious collector,
Okay.
but I definitely have my little like clusters of things. Like what?
Vintage postcards, quirky magnets, interesting bottle caps. What stands out to you about those objects? Is it the visual appeal, the story behind them,
Yeah.
the way they make you feel?
Yeah.
It's a bit of everything, honestly.
Yeah.
The postcards, like, connect me to different places and times.
Right.
The magnets, they capture memories of travels.
Uh-huh.
And the bottle caps are just, well,
Yeah.
they're fun and tactile.
Yeah.
And they remind me of, like, childhood scavenging adventures.
I love that.
But I've never, like, thought about organizing them in any systematic way.
Uh-huh.
I just kind of accumulate.
Well, that's perfectly valid. Collecting doesn't have to be about like rigid systems
Okay.
or strict categories.
Right.
It can be about whatever brings you joy
Yeah.
and sparks your curiosity.
That's reassuring. Maybe I'll take a cue from our featured doll shoe collector and try arranging my bottle caps by color or design.
Oh, I like that.
Who knows? Maybe I'll discover, like, hidden patterns or connections I never noticed before.
Right.
But, as we've been talking about this collector's meticulous organization and attention to detail,
Yeah.
I've been wondering about the, like, flip side of that.
Yeah.
Do they ever feel overwhelmed
Yeah.
by the sheer volume of their collection?
Right.
Is there a point where the joy of collecting tips over into, like, a sense of burden or obligation?
That's a great question, and it's one that many collectors grapple with.
Yeah.
There's a delicate balance between like passion and practicality,
Right.
between the joy of acquiring and the responsibility of caring for a collection.
Yeah.
And sometimes that balance can shift.
Right.
Collections can grow, life circumstances can change, and what was once a source of delight can become, a source of stress.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
It's like any passion. It requires time, energy, and resources.
Yeah.
And sometimes those resources might be better directed elsewhere.
Yeah.
But I imagine there's also, like, a sense of pride and accomplishment that comes with building a collection.
Especially one as like meticulously curated as the one we're discussing.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
A collection can be a source of immense personal satisfaction.
Yeah.
A testament to a collector's knowledge, dedication, and discerning eye.
Right.
And it can be a wonderful way to connect with others who share your passions.
Totally.
But it's also important to be mindful of, like, the emotional and practical aspects of collecting.
Yeah.
To recognize when a collection is serving you
Uh-huh.
and when it might be time to reevaluate your relationship with it.
That's such a valuable perspective.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that collecting should be about joy and enrichment,
Uh-huh.
not about burden or obligation.
Right.
And speaking of enrichment, I'm curious about the ways this collector's passion for miniature footwear has enriched their life
Yeah.
beyond just the act of collecting itself.
Right.
Has it like led them to new friendships, new
Mhm.
skills,
Mhm.
new ways of seeing the world?
That's a wonderful question, and it speaks to the transformative power of, like, hobbies and passions.
Yeah.
Collecting can be a gateway to so much more than just the objects themselves.
Totally.
It can foster connections, spark creativity, and even lead to unexpected career paths or entrepreneurial ventures.
It's amazing to think about the ripple effects of a seemingly simple hobby.
I know, right?
And it makes me wonder about like the stories behind this particular collector's journey.
Yeah.
What led them to this world of miniature footwear?
Mm-hmm.
What challenges have they faced?
Oh.
What triumphs have they celebrated? It's like each tiny shoe holds a piece of their personal story,
Yeah.
waiting to be uncovered and shared.
It's those personal stories that make collecting so fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just about the objects.
Right.
It's about the people behind them, their passions, their struggles, their unique perspectives on the world.
Totally.
And it's a reminder that even in the smallest of things, we can find beauty, connection, and inspiration.
That's beautiful.
But, as we delve deeper into this world of miniature footwear,
Yeah.
I'm realizing that there's a whole universe of, like, terminology
Mm-hmm.
and technical details
Yeah.
that most people are probably completely unfamiliar with.
Right.
Terms like foot blade and ankle circumference might seem like common knowledge to collectors,
Uh-huh.
but for the rest of us, it's like learning a new language.
That's a great point. And it highlights the importance of like clear communication,
Yeah.
especially when we're exploring like niche topics like this.
Right.
We don't want to overwhelm listeners with jargon,
Right.
but we also want to be accurate and respectful of the expertise that exists within this community.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between accessibility and accuracy,
Yeah,
between demystifying the unfamiliar and honoring the depth of knowledge that these collectors possess.
totally.
And it's a reminder that learning is a journey.
Right.
And even the most seasoned experts were once beginners,
Ah,
fumbling their way through unfamiliar terminology and concepts.
that's so true.
Right.
And it's a great message to keep in mind as we continue to explore this fascinating world. Now, we've talked a lot about like the challenges of collecting,
Yeah.
the hunt for rare pieces,
Huh.
the meticulous organization,
Mhm.
the constant quest for knowledge.
Right.
But I'm curious about the rewards.
Yeah.
What is it about this hobby that keeps collectors coming back for more?
Right.
What keeps that passion alive?
I think, at its core, it's the same drive that fuels any passionate hobby.
Okay.
The joy of discovery, the satisfaction of mastery, the connection with a community of like-minded individuals.
Yeah.
But in the case of collecting, there's also the added element of like tangible history,
Right.
the thrill of holding a piece of the past in your hands.
Yeah. And in the case of miniature footwear, there's the added layer of whimsy and delight,
Oh, yeah,
the sheer fun of exploring a world in miniature.
that's true.
It's like accessing a secret portal to a realm where anything is possible,
Yeah,
where tiny shoes hold big stories, and where passion and imagination reign supreme.
beautifully said.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even in the smallest of things, we can find wonder, beauty, and endless possibilities for exploration.
Now, we've been focusing primarily on like the collector's personal collection
Yeah.
and the systems they use to organize it.
Uh-huh.
But I'm curious about like the broader context of this hobby.
Okay.
Is there a larger community of miniature footwear enthusiasts? Are there like conventions, online forums, publications dedicated to this niche interest?
Absolutely. Like most passionate hobbies,
Yeah.
miniature footwear collecting has a thriving community, both online and offline.
Oh, wow.
Collectors connect through dedicated forums, Facebook groups, and even specialized marketplaces
Mhm.
where they buy, sell, and trade pieces. Share knowledge and debate the finer points of identification and valuation.
Right.
And there are often conventions and meetups where collectors can gather in person,
Oh, cool.
showcase their collections, and connect with like-minded individuals.
It's like a whole secret society,
It is.
united by their love for tiny shoes.
Yes.
And I bet those gatherings are a treasure trove of information and inspiration.
Oh, yeah.
I can just imagine the excited chatter about rare finds, the expert analysis of manufacturing variations,
Right.
the shared passion for a hobby that most people probably don't even know exists.
It's those connections that make collecting so much more than just a solitary pursuit.
Totally.
It's about belonging to a community, sharing your knowledge, and learning from others who share your passion.
And speaking of learning,
Yeah.
we haven't even scratched the surface of this collector's expertise.
Oh, I know, right?
They mentioned something about certain bee shoes being more valuable because of the type of plastic used. Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Yeah.
What makes one plastic more desirable than another in the world of miniature footwear?
It all comes down to durability and aesthetics.
Oh.
Some plastics are more prone to yellowing or cracking over time,
Right.
while others retain their color and integrity for decades.
Wow.
And then there are those that have a particular texture or sheen
Mm-hmm.
that's prized by collectors.
Right.
For example, the Italian-made bee shoes are known for their harder, more durable plastic, which is less likely to show wear and tear over time.
It's fascinating how these seemingly insignificant details can make such a difference in the world of collecting.
Isn't it?
And it highlights the deep knowledge and discerning eye that these enthusiasts possess.
Yes.
They're not just amassing objects.
Right.
They're curating a collection based on specific criteria, and that knowledge is often hard-won through years of research, observation, and interaction with other collectors.
That's like a miniature art history course.
Oh, I like that.
But focused on the often overlooked world of doll shoes and action figure boots.
Totally.
And it's a reminder that expertise can be found in the most unexpected places.
Yeah.
And that passion and curiosity can, lead us down fascinating paths of discovery.
Absolutely. Now, we've been talking a lot about the technical aspects of collecting.
Yeah.
But I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier, The ethical considerations
Yeah.
that some collectors bring to their hobby.
Right.
Our featured collector mentioned a preference for using artificial leather over real leather when creating custom doll clothes.
Mm-hmm.
What other ethical choices might collectors grapple with as they build their collections?
That's a great question, and it speaks to the growing awareness of sustainability and ethical sourcing within the collecting community.
Okay.
Collectors are increasingly considering, the environmental impact of their hobby, from the materials used in the objects themselves to the
Yeah.
packaging and shipping practices involved in, like acquiring new pieces.
Right.
And some are even opting to collect only vintage or secondhand items,
Oh,
reducing their reliance on newly manufactured goods.
that's a really interesting trend. It's like the collecting world is mirroring the larger shift towards conscious consumerism,
Right.
with enthusiasts taking a more mindful approach to their acquisitions.
Absolutely.
And it makes me wonder about the role of technology in this evolving landscape.
Yeah.
Are there apps
Uh-huh.
or online tools that help collectors make more informed choices about the provenance and sustainability of the items they're considering?
Absolutely. Technology is playing an increasingly important role in the world of collecting,
Okay.
providing tools for research, authentication, and even ethical sourcing.
Oh, interesting.
There are apps that can help you identify counterfeit items,
Really?
databases that track the history and provenance of specific pieces,
Wow.
and online platforms that connect collectors with reputable sellers who prioritize sustainability and ethical practices.
That's fantastic. As technology is empowering collectors to make more informed choices,
Uh-huh.
to align their passions with their values,
Yeah.
and to ensure that their hobby is both enjoyable and responsible.
And it's a reminder that even in a world of seemingly niche interests,
Right.
there's room for innovation, progress, and a commitment to making a positive impact.
Now, you mentioned earlier that some collectors specialize in specific types of miniature footwear,
Uh-huh.
while others embrace a more eclectic approach.
Right?
I'm curious about the collector we're featuring today.
Yeah.
Do they seem to have a particular area of focus?
Right.
Or are they more of a generalist drawn to interesting and unique pieces from across different categories?
From what we've seen, this collector seems to have a wide-ranging appreciation for miniature footwear, from the delicate elegance of Barbie shoes to the rugged durability of action figure boots.
Okay.
They seem to be drawn to the diversity of styles,
Yeah.
the historical significance of different pieces,
Right.
and the stories that each shoe, tells about the character or era it represents.
That's fascinating. It's they're curating a miniature museum of footwear history,
Yes.
showcasing the evolution of style, materials, and craftsmanship over time.
Right.
And it makes me wonder about the other types of dolls and figures that might be represented in their collection.
Yeah.
Have they given us any clues about their other miniature passions?
They have. Remember when they mentioned buying vintage pants for a doll on AliExpress?
Oh, yeah.
That suggests they might also be interested in doll clothing and accessories.
Right.
And their willingness to source items internationally speaks to a deep commitment to finding unique and authentic pieces.
That's a great point. And it opens up a whole new avenue of exploration.
It does.
If their approach to footwear is any indication, I bet their collection of doll clothes is just as meticulously curated,
Yeah.
full of fascinating details.
I wouldn't be surprised. And it makes me even more curious about their overall collecting philosophy.
Yeah.
What drives their choices?
Yeah.
What criteria do they use to evaluate potential acquisitions? What stories do they hope to tell through their collection?
Those are great questions, and they're ones we'll keep in mind as we continue to delve deeper into this fascinating world.
Right.
But for now, I think it's time to shift our focus back to the shoes themselves.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about the collecting aspect,
Okay.
but we haven't really explored the shoes as objects in their own right.
Right.
What can we learn about design,
Yeah.
materials, and manufacturing processes by looking at these miniature pieces.
That's a great point. Let's put on our magnifying glasses and take a closer look at the craftsmanship behind these tiny shoes.
Okay.
We might be surprised by what we discover.
Okay, time to put on our like imaginary jeweler's loops.
Okay.
When you zoom in on these miniature shoes,
Yeah.
what stands out to you from like a design perspective?
What's fascinating is how they manage to capture the essence of like real footwear trends, even at such a small scale. You see the same attention to like shape,
Right.
silhouette, even details like buckles and stitching. It's like each shoe is a tiny design masterpiece.
It's incredible, and they've managed to do this with materials that must be incredibly challenging to work with.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, like imagine trying to mold plastic into a perfect miniature stiletto heel.
I know, right? Manufacturing processes must be like fascinating.
Yeah.
I wonder if they use injection molding similar to how larger shoes are made, or if there are entirely different techniques involved in creating footwear at this scale.
It's mind-boggling. And then there's the challenge of decorating these tiny shoes.
Right.
We've seen everything from like tiny painted details to miniature gemstones and even tiny working buckles.
The level of precision is remarkable. It's like microsurgery for shoes.
Yeah.
And it speaks to like the dedication and artistry of the people who created these pieces.
Yeah.
They weren't just, churning out mass-produced toys.
Right.
They were crafting miniature works of art.
It's like a whole hidden world of like craftsmanship tucked away in our toy boxes and attics.
I know.
And it makes me wonder about the like evolution of these manufacturing processes over time.
Yeah.
Have they changed much since the early days of like Barbie and Action Man?
That's a great question. I imagine technology has, played a role, allowing for more intricate designs and finer details.
Right.
But I bet there's still a lot of like handwork involved, especially in those vintage pieces.
It's like this like blend of traditional craftsmanship and modern innovation all coming together to create these tiny treasures. And it makes me appreciate them even more.
Yeah.
Knowing the skill and care that went into their creation. But, we've been talking a lot about the like technical aspects of design and manufacturing.
Yeah.
But there's another layer to these shoes that I find particularly intriguing. The symbolic aspect.
Yeah.
What do these miniature shoes tell us about the characters they adorn, about the stories they inhabit, about the culture that created them?
That's a brilliant observation. Shoes are so much more than just functional objects.
Right.
They're expressions of identity, status, and even cultural values.
Yeah.
And that's just as true in the world of miniature footwear
Totally.
as it is in the real world.
Think about it, like a pair of sturdy boots on an action figure
Yeah.
conveys like a sense of adventure and ruggedness,
Right.
while a pair of like delicate heels on a Barbie doll evokes femininity and glamour.
Exactly. And the choice of footwear can even like tell us about the roles these characters play in their miniature worlds. A doctor might wear, sensible flats, a businesswoman a power suit and heels.
Yeah.
A superhero might have custom designed boots that, enhance their abilities.
Totally. It's like each shoe is a tiny clue
Yeah.
to a bigger story, a window into the values and aspirations of the culture that created them. And it makes me wonder how these like miniature trends
Yeah.
have mirrored or even influenced real world fashion over time.
Oh, interesting.
Have there been instances where like a style that debuted on a Barbie doll ended up on the runway a few years later?
Oh, I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
Fashion is a constant conversation between like inspiration and interpretation.
Right.
And I wouldn't be surprised if designers have found inspiration in the playful and sometimes avant-garde styles of miniature footwear.
Totally.
And let's not forget the influence of pop culture. Think about the iconic red boots worn by the character Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. Those shoes have been replicated countless times, both in full size and in miniature, cementing their place in both fashion and cultural history.
Right. It's like these miniature shoes have a power and influence that extends far beyond their tiny size.
Yeah.
They capture our imagination, spark our creativity, and remind us that even the smallest details can have a big impact.
Beautifully said. And it brings us back to the heart of this deep dive. The idea that even the most seemingly mundane objects
Yeah.
can hold hidden depths, fascinating stories,
Hmm.
and unexpected connections to the wider world.
It's been an incredible journey, like exploring this intricate world of miniature footwear. We've learned about meticulous organization systems,
Hmm.
uncovered hidden histories, and even pondered like the deeper meaning behind these tiny treasures. What are some of the key takeaways you hope listeners will glean from this deep dive?
I hope they'll come away with a sense of like wonder
Yeah,
and curiosity,
yeah,
a renewed appreciation for the artistry and craftsmanship that exists even in the smallest of things.
totally.
And I hope they'll be inspired to look at their own world with fresh eyes, to seek out the hidden stories and unexpected connections that are all around us,
Right.
waiting to be discovered.
I couldn't have said it better myself. This deep dive has shown us that even something as seemingly simple as add a doll shoe can be a window into history, culture,
Uh-huh.
and the boundless creativity of the human spirit. So the next time you come across a tiny shoe,
Yeah.
don't dismiss it as just a toy. Take a closer look. You might be surprised by what you find.
And who knows, you might even be inspired to like start your own miniature shoe collection.
Oh, totally.
It's a world full of surprises.
Yeah.
And there's always room for more passionate enthusiasts.
Absolutely. So, to our listeners, we say embrace your curiosity, explore the world around you with fresh eyes, and never underestimate the power of a tiny shoe.